Hello and welcome to Knife Chats, a channel where we discuss the history of cutlery as well as offer reviews on affordably priced knives for the user and collector alike. Without further ado, let's see what today's video is about. Today I thought I would take a look at my webpage, A Pocket Guide to Knives, being a primer for the novice knife collector as well as a useful pocket companion for the more advanced member of the knife collecting community. And here you see the web page for it, or the web address for it, apg2k, a pocket guide to knives.hegwish.net. The page has been around since about 2012. I'm not going to bother going through every single area of this web page, but I will talk about a couple areas that I think are very crucial and two areas that are heavily used by people who visit the page. Hopefully you'll find it informative. Okay, I'm going to skip the preface that basically explains how I got into knife collecting, and I'm going to move right into starting out. And starting out, as you can tell from the page, it's quite text heavy. Quite a few of the pages are text heavy. There are some sections that have quite a few photos, but you'll find a lot of this is talking about the philosophy of knife collecting and such. And as such, the first rule of knife collecting, actually the first rule of collecting just about anything is, if you don't want to be disappointed, know what you're buying and buy what you like. This means you really actually need to do quite a bit of research if you're going to build a nice knife collection. You're going to need to know the different companies. You're going to need to know the different brands that the companies put out. You're also going to need to know the different patterns and stuff and find out what you actually like and what you don't like. Usually you start knife collecting because you have a couple laying around and you're kind of happy with the way they work and such, and that's the perfect way to do it. I mean, I started off by buying Camillus knives because I was happy with the Camillus brand. I had several Camillus knives and very happy with it. My knife collecting has taken many twists and turns over the years as I've grown in my collecting, and chances are yours will too. Okay, like I mentioned, I'm not going to go through every portion on this web page. You can do that on your own, but what I am going to do is drop down to two of the appendices down here, one of them being Who Owns Who, and the other one being a lexicon of knife terms. The reason I'm going to show these is because these are the ones that most people tend to use on this web page. And we'll start off with Who Owns Who. So what is Who Owns Who? It's basically started out as a Excel spreadsheet that I started working on because I kept running into all these American-sounding name brands on a television show called Cutlery Corner Network, and I really had never heard of them before, and I tried to find out who actually owned these brand names, and it turned out that basically most of them were owned by Jim Frost, who actually owns Cutlery Corner Network, which made a whole lot of sense. But then I started looking around and realized that there were several other situations that were similar, like SMKW, or Smoky Mountain Knife Works, also owns about 20 different brands, and Taylor Brands also owns several different brands, and so on and so forth. And so I started compiling it all, and then I thought, as long as I've got all this information, I just as well share it and put in a few notes for these different knife brands and such. And so what we have here is like American Buffalo Knife and Tool, which is owned by American Buffalo Knife and Tool, and then the place of manufacturing, which says global, which means it could be just about anywhere. But then it says where they're located, and basically modestly priced, globally produced knives. All ABKT knives come with a lifetime warranty. And you see American Hunter, which is owned by Smoky Mountain Knife Works. Higher end products that are made in the USA. Lower price materials are made in SMKW overseas factories in China and Pakistan. And so on and so forth. So you can see this throughout. There's brands from not only the United States but also around the world. I've been compiling this from not only from what I was able to find out, but also from when people would email me and say, "Hey, I ran across this brand name. Do you know anything about it?" And I would look it up and find out who made it and add it into here. And then also people would contact me and say, "Hey, I make knives. How come you haven't got me listed in who owns who?" And they would provide me the information. I would check them out and then go ahead and add it in here too. And so basically what I've been doing for over the last 5 years is compiling a list of various knife makers and brands and saying who makes it. So like the Ranger series is made by Ontario and is manufactured in USA. And then you see Rapala here, which have knives made in Finland and China. Randall Adventure Training, which is Jeff Randall, USA, so on and so forth. So if you're looking for a knife and you're wondering and you came across a knife brand and you've never heard anything about it, you might want to check here and see if I have it listed. And if you can't find anything on here, send me an email or reply to this YouTube video, and I will get back to you and try and find out who owns it and who makes it and what kind of quality it is. Okay, before I move on to the lexicon of knife terms, I want to mention a little bit about lexicon of blade steel. This basically is included in the lexicon of knife terms, but it's just a breakout of the various types of blade steel that are out there. But I have also tried to integrate it into the lexicon of knife terms. But if you're just looking for a type of blade steel, this would be a quicker way to look instead of going in through the knife terms. Moving on to the knife terms. So it says right at the beginning, the purpose here is to provide the most common terms that you're going to run into when you're collecting knives. And it talks not only about the parts of the knife, but also the various patterns. And also, and by patterns, I don't mean just the traditional patterns. We're also looking at the modern terms and everything else out there. For instance, if we click on B for bushcraft, we'll not only see what a bait knife is, but way down here, we will run into bushcraft. Bushcraft, wilderness or survival skills, especially those involving making shelter, traps, and fire. And then we see what a bushcraft knife is, or an example of a bushcraft knife, and gives a brief description and definition of what it is. We also see butcher knife below. Further up, we see what a boot knife is, and a Bowie knife, and a bird and trout knife, and a bird hunter or bird hook knife, and a bayonet grind, what a bayonet is, so on and so forth. This is where you're going to run into more photos because so often a picture is worth 1,000 words. So if as I go through this and I collect more knives, I go ahead and add more knives to it. So I haven't quite gotten around to putting a baby copperhead in here yet, but I will when I get one. And we can go into any of these letters and you'll see similar things. So that's what the lexicon of knife terminology is all about. Okay, I hope this video helped a little bit, and I hope this webpage could also help you, especially the who owns who section, so that you kind of get an idea of what knife you're actually buying out there. And the lexicon of knife terms should be helpful if you are new to knife collecting, and or even if you've been around for a while and somebody's talking about some pattern that you've never heard about. In any case, I'm going to wrap it up now, and I'll talk to you soon. Thanks for visiting. If you like this video, please share it with a friend and consider subscribing to Knife Chats. To be notified of future episodes, don't forget to ring that bell. As always, your comments are welcome and insults are cheerfully ignored. Remember, you're only as sharp as your knife.